Right, I'm going to begin, guys. I mean, my very limited experience of acting, which is basically when I was at school, I used to love performing like sort of stage productions because you really get the chance to really kind of explore the characters, no kind of stop-start, but I hated doing it in front of an audience. Did this film kind of offer that best of both worlds, where it almost felt akin to a sort of stage play, but you didn't actually have to worry about doing it live every night?
There were definite benefits to the way we shot this, in that we shot it in 2 weeks, which was really fast. I've never shot a film that fast before. We shot the thing chronologically in sequence, which is always a huge gift for any actor, because you can process what's happening, in real time, as opposed to everything out of sequence and trying to remember where you were in the story. It didn't feel like a play to me, other than I suppose there were long takes. There would be long takes, which is quite nice that you get to like really sit into a big take. But I suppose the fact that people are comparing it to stage is that it happens really in kind of one location, and we'd never go outside, and it feels quite like a chamber piece in that regard. But there were benefits, but I didn't get any of the sort of stage stuff off it.
No, it didn't. Mercifully, it didn't feel like a play, because a play means you have to do it all at one time, and you don't get a chance to do it again while you're doing it. No, I think I agree with Cillian. I think the fact that it's a chamber piece film, it gives it possibly a theatrical bent, but it felt very much like and I think the way it's shot and the way it has a very, very cinematographic aesthetic to it.
And I was just speaking to Sally, and she was saying that there's been actually interest in turning this into a play. I mean, are these roles you consider doing again on stage? Is that something that you'd sort of entertain?
Oh.
No.
No, I think maybe I think it's not a bad idea, but I think it's probably for some other talented people to do.
Yeah. I think we could make a play, yeah. But I don't fancy it.
and when films are set kind of in one, effectively just one afternoon or sort of across one day, I mean, is that easier or harder to get into the character's head? Because I guess in some ways there's less of a journey, but at the same time, every day you've got to come in and you've got to get into exactly the same mindset of this over the course of 2 weeks, which is really only sort of 2 or 3 hours. So is that kind of harder or more challenging? Harder or kind of easy, would you say, as an actor?
Same costume, which is great.
Yeah, that did help, didn't it? Yeah. To go and change 18 times a day. Take your own clothes off, put 18 different other sets of clothes, and put your own clothes back. I think, why don't you just come in your pyjamas? Yeah. But it's all a variation of one thing, whether you're doing it back to front or whether you're doing it in order. You've got to know where you are psychologically with the character, and you've got to know where that's leading to, and try and inhabit it absolutely for that moment. So it takes a lot of concentration, and luckily it was a fantastic ensemble piece, and everybody was concentrating so strongly on their piece that when everybody else is firing so brilliantly on their own guns, it encourages you to do the same. I mean, there was a real classy bunch of people there, and you thought, right, these are all the top of their game, so that encourages you to join in with this massive amount of energy, of expertise going on there,
Because it's obviously a political comedy. Brexit, the results of Brexit happened during the shoot. What sort of impact did that have on the whole production, would you say?
Well, I mean, everyone remembers kind of how that went down. We all went to bed thinking it was going to be one thing, and then we all woke up and it was something else, and we all went to work that day, and yeah, people were like profoundly affected by it. But Sally, I think, was right. She didn't go and rewrite the script and say, start, trying to adapt. I think the story talks to that sort of feeling in the country already. Do you know what I mean? I don't think she needed to do anything. The story was sort of already set, and the stuff that she was sort of poking at very gently was already in the story. But yeah, it was a mad day, wasn't it?
It was, and people, it was a real shock. It felt like a paradigm shift had happened. I mean, obviously, a lot of people there were quite shocked and stunned. Some people were very upset. But having said that, it felt like there was a massive tragedy. Then I saw a guy in a Union Jack T-shirt. It was I've got my country back on, walking about. I thought, well, it's not everybody feels like this. So as much as we were, all stunned by it, there were people who were very delighted by it.
And I'm just wondering about regarding to approaching your roles. I mean, did you treat it very much like? Because I mean, your two characters in some way provide the dramatic edge, I'd say, to this movie. I say obviously like Patricia's character's got more of the kind of one-liners and stuff like that. Did you treat these characters very much like you would in a drama, even though it's kind of dressed up in what is effectively a sort of farce?
Yeah, I think you've always just got to play the truth of it. I mean, that's an old sort of cliche, but it's true. You know, you just play the truth of it and you play the honesty of it. And if the situation is humorous or, you know, people get a laugh out of that, then so be it. And, you know, but the story with myself and Tim's character was pretty serious, you know, what was going down. But I think the way that it comes out and the way that we deal with it is kind of a little bit ridiculous, and that in itself I think was funny. But certainly for me anyway, I had to, you know, play the truth of what had happened between us. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, my character doesn't say much for the first 20 minutes because he's holding on to this massive 2 pieces of information that are cataclysmic. They're like, I mean, they really are like they're like a nuclear bomb that shifts the whole tectonic plates of the story. Cillian's character comes in with a massive intent, and it's shifted because of these revelations. And then the whole pot of revelations, it sets off a virus of all of these revelations that then explode all this remarkably, intact but thin veneer of sophistication over all this humanity that's boiling away underneath it.
And do you quite like playing these roles that have that kind of sort of very internalised display of this nature that Bill has? I mean, obviously there's less lines to learn, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, but, you know, you still got to try and tell the story by holding on to all of this, you know, horror that's going on inside you and this desire to you know, you still got to contain the story within you, more so in some ways that you haven't got the words to express it.
And just funny, I mean, Cillian, obviously you're working with Luc Besson in Anna. I was just wondering, I mean, how has that one started yet, and how does your character fit into that story?
No, it doesn't start. It started that in November,
Cool.
and I don't think I'm supposed to talk about that. I'm like, but listen, I love his films. I've been a big fan since I was a kid, and I'm very excited about it.
Do you still get that? Because obviously, are you still fans of people, and is there still kind of a hard disconnect sometimes when you work with people that you grew up sort of loving?
Oh, it's always there for me, but once you get on the set, it's just everyone doing their job. But initially, you're like, oh my god, yeah.
Oh, it's a thrill. Come on, like this when the cast was all come together, you thought, cool, blimey, these are people I really, really like, and then also makes you a bit nervous. You think, oh god, you know, careful, never work with your heroes and all that. But it wasn't like that. It was all fantastic.